Surprise Comics.
In this video, we have a little bit of everything. We have a submission that I finally got back from CGC after they lost it for over 6 months, and then they found it, and then they shipped it, and then FedEx damaged it. We also have a couple other things, a recent collection I picked up for around $10,000, and 2 recent trades. So a little bit of everything in this video. Before we hop into it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video for your chance to win a 10-cent Detective Comics. And if you head over to brycecomics.com and sign up for the newsletter over there, you'll be entered to win a free slab as well. It's also where I send first access to new inventory like the slabs you're going to see in this video, and discount codes and things like that. Also, follow me over on Instagram. I posted 2 of the trade books that are in this video first over on Instagram, so I'll do that from time to time. Make sure you follow me over there so you don't miss out on trade opportunities, and link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase on Whatnot. Some of these books will be brought to Whatnot with $1 starts. Let's start with the lost submission story from CGC. The reason I want to tell this story is I think some people may be able to benefit from, some things that I've learned along the ways after all of my years of submitting to CGC, because I do submit a lot of books to CGC, and for the most part they do pretty good, and they have made some really good improvements, which I'll touch on here in just a moment. So credit where credit is due. But first off, this submission got lost, okay? And other submissions that I sent in around the same time came and went from CGC, and about a few months passed, and this submission was still stuck in the final phase over at CGC. And I knew right away when it had been like past a month since submissions right around it had already shipped that this was lost. It happens from time to time. This is not the first time that it's happened to me. And I decided to wait. And that's one of my tips, is to just be patient, because a lot of times when a submission drags behind or gets stuck, it works itself out and it'll end up shipping. And I've learned the hard way from spending hours upon hours of calling customer service and trying to get an update and here and there, that it was absolutely useless, and the books just ended up shipping on their own accord anyways. And I think for the vast majority of people, first of all, I think the vast majority of people submitting to CGC probably won't have huge problems like this. This is just a numbers thing. If you submit enough, eventually you will have a book get lost or stuck or something. And so my first tip is to just be patient, because a lot of times you'll just be spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of your time when it ends up shipping on its own. So a couple months go by after, it should have shipped and it didn't. So I call into customer service and they open a ticket and say, yep, it looks like this is lost. Let's look into it. And so the first thing that they need credit for, CGC, is instating this ticket system. This is a huge improvement for CGC, because it used to be that you would call into customer service, there was no ticket system, and you'd get a new customer service representative and you have to start from square one every single time. It was absolute insanity. I can't believe it took them as long as it did to get a ticket system for a company of their size. I'm a company of 2 employees, and I'm considering getting a ticket system because things just get lost. And so it was absolute madness. You would call in and you'd have to start from scratch and say, this submission is lost. And you could have had a whole dialogue about this and talk to different representatives, but every single time you call, you'd have to start from square one. So now they have a ticket system. So, the dialogue and the notes are right there in the system, and it works really well. So they open a ticket and say, let's look into this. I'll get back to you later today. And then they got back to me with the ticket and said, this ticket is now closed because I sent an email to such and such department to perform a search for this submission. So the ticket is closed. And so that's the first problem. It's like, no, it's not closed. Do not close the ticket if you still haven't located the submission. And so sure enough, nothing happens. Another month goes by, no movement on the submission. It's still stuck in the same place. And I call back again. They open another ticket and they say the exact same thing. They send me an email saying, this ticket is now closed. We sent an email to such and such department. They're going to look for it and it'll ship soon. Of course, nothing happens. Another month goes by. We're now at about 6 or 7 months, I believe, since it should have shipped. And I call back again and finally get a hold of, customer service. They do the same thing, open a new ticket, and they say, all right, well, we're going to send an email. And I go, wait a minute. I can't accept that this time. This is the exact same thing they said twice. They've opened and closed tickets. This submission has not been found. So I need to talk to somebody today and get this resolved today. Either it's completely lost and you guys guys need to do a buyback, or, give me some kind of information, but don't just close the ticket and send an email. That's not working. And so I got a hold of somebody in upper management, and they worked with me, and I was really happy with the service that I received from this upper management. They said, I'm not going to even go home today until we settle this once and for all, till I find the submission. They handled it perfectly, and I was really happy with it. And they got back to me later that day and found the actual submission, and it actually shipped that day. And I was actually surprised. I thought that the submission was going to be either completely lost and they might have to do some kind of buyback. So on very rare occasion, a book will actually get lost. I've had stuff get stuck and misplaced, lost, quote unquote, for a period of time, but then it's found. I've never actually had books that were completely lost. I've had many submissions that got stuck and misplaced, but they were always eventually found. But on occasion, they may actually lose the submission or send it to the wrong person or something. And in a situation like that, they may have to do a buyback and buy the books from you at whatever the insured value was, based off of like recent market values and stuff like that. So that didn't happen. They actually shipped the books, and then the books rolled in with FedEx, and there's a huge chunk in the bottom of the box. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? And I could tell right away that some of the books in there were going to be damaged, because the box was obviously dropped on like a sharp ledge or something. And I opened it up, and sure enough, a couple of the books were completely shattered. And so now I have to send those books back again and get them reholdered through the mechanical error process at CGC. That is absolutely not CGC's fault or their problem. This was a FedEx problem. FedEx damaged the books, and CGC usually does a really good job with handling mechanical errors, is what they call it, when a book is damaged in shipping. Luckily, these books don't appear to have been damaged inside the case. They'll just get reholdered, and CGC does a good job with handling that whole process. So what are the main takeaways from this? First of all, I think if you're just a regular collector that submits, occasionally here and there, I think it's likely that you might not ever have issues with CGC, depending on how much volume you do. If at a certain point, if you do any kind of volume, there will be problems. You'll get, a submission gets stuck, or, a slab is broken in shipping, or something happens, there's a hair in the case. That's absolutely going to happen when you pass a certain threshold. But I don't want the takeaway from this to be, because I see the comments all the time, and a lot of times people say, I've never submitted a CGC, and this just confirms I'm never going to do it. And the thing of it is that's not a reasonable takeaway from this. I do a huge volume with CGC, and so I think that the average collector, you shouldn't not submit because of stories like this that you hear. It's not a reasonable conclusion to draw from this. But one reasonable conclusion to draw, and something that I've learned, is to be patient, right? First thing that you want to do if you think a submission is stuck or something is check the stated turn times on the website. I see a lot of times people will submit something to CCS where the stated turn time for the pressing service at CGC is like a 1 year turn time plus the grading time. And I'll see posts on Instagram where they're like 6 months in and they're complaining about a lost submission when it's not even halfway to the stated turn time. So the first thing to do is make sure you check the actual turn times, because you don't need to start looking for a lost submission if it's within the stated turn time. Most of the time, in my experience with all of my dealings with CGC, the vast majority of them would have just been handled if I just didn't call and just let it resolve itself. I wasted a lot of time over the years, trying to track things down and hunt things down. But when you get to a certain point, if something really is lost, at a certain point, you do need to stay on them and make sure that you are actually getting resolution for it. So with all of that said, let's take a look at these books. All right, so we have several different stacks going on here. We're going to start with this one here with the Giant Size X-Men #1. This came from a recent collection. I just picked up a stack of 4 books, and I paid $9,300 for them. I believe they're valued somewhere around $12,000. If I'm remembering correctly. And this is the first one, Giant Size X-Men #1, 4.5. First appearance of the new X-Men, first appearance of Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Thunderbird. And this is an exceptionally well-presenting 4.5 copy. Most of the damage is on the back. And I do believe I'm going to have to keep this one for a grand prize for my next mystery box. And then we have Amazing Spider-Man #14 in a 7.5 with white pages. Also presents exceptionally well for a 7.5. The main reason that it got that grade is some fraying on the spine. So depending on how harshly, there's also a little crease and some corner wear and stuff like that. But as far as 7.5 goes, It presents really well for 7.5. It also has that white pages, which is a nice addition. First appearance of the Green Goblin and the first meeting of the Hulk and Spider-Man. So it's just such a classic, iconic Steve Ditko cover, and this one will be available for sale or trade, so you can check the website for details on that. Marvel Premiere number 1, 8.0 white pages, first appearance of him as Adam Warlock. And Iron Fist number 14 and a 9.8 white pages, the first appearance of Sabretooth. Such an awesome cover. This one also will be available for trade as well, if you could check the website. This next stack here is the Lost submission that arrived damaged. These were the only two books that took the brunt of it from the damage, so I'll have to send these two back to be reholdered. Luckily, the books inside the cases don't appear to be damaged. And this one's a nice little surprise. I don't remember which collection this came out of. It may have came out of Joshua's $40,000 collection that I bought all that time ago, but it was so cool to see this come back. 9.8 white page newsstand edition of Spider-Man number 1 of the polybagged edition. Spider-Gwen number 34, which is a cover homage to Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time that Spider-Gwen is referred to as Spider-Gwen, even though it's the title of the series and it's 34 issues in. I think up until this point, she's referred to as Spider-Woman or Gwen Stacy, and this is the first time because at the end of the story, she goes, "Call me Spider-Gwen." So either I'm completely tripping on that, or that's just a really weird thing where she doesn't actually get called Spider-Gwen in the story until 34 issues in. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 6, the first full appearance of Starling. Amazing Spider-Man number 654.1. I do believe this is the first appearance of Flash Thompson as Venom, if I'm not mistaken. Spider-Man 611 second print, such an epic Deadpool Spidey cover. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30, the first appearance of Moreland and Ezekiel. Some spec behind Moreland right now, I believe. Spider-Man number 1, the 2019 series, just such an awesome kid die-cut cover, and this is the first appearance of Cadaverous. Spider-Man number 13, and the reason I got this graded is simply for the cover. I am just such a fan of this depiction of Spider-Gwen right there by Sarah Pichelli, so it's just a cover lovers. Spider-Man number 26 with an awesome hologram cover. Spider-Gwen number 24, this is where Gwen Stacy becomes Gwenom. 2 copies of that. This is a really just an incredible cover. It's also difficult to get in high grade because of obviously the all black cover and black spine. Spider-Gwen number 25. I believe this is a 1 in 10 by Mike McCone. 2 copies of that. Miss Marvel number 1. Now this is one that it is why it's so important for the timing and why this really sucks that this submission got lost for over 6 months. This is the 1 in 25 Pichelli variant for Miss Marvel number 1, and this book has just completely bottomed out as far as price goes, whereas if I would have got it back when I originally submitted it on time, if it hadn't got lost, you know, it would have been the difference between a lot of money. Still an awesome cover though. Spider-Gwen number 24, the same book where Gwen Stacy becomes Gwenom, and this is the Venomized villain variant. And Miles Morales number 6, one of my all-time favorite Mysterio covers. I have one of these in the PC, and this is also the first full appearance of Starling. And 2 copies of that. All right, so these books came from a partial trade that I did for House of Secrets 92 and a 4.5. I think I did 700 cash, and then these books, if I'm remembering correctly. So Spider-Gwen number 1, first solo series for Spider-Gwen. Same book, but the Phantom variant cover with an homage to ASM 300, first solo series for Spider-Gwen. Something is Killing the Children number 1, the Jay Lee variant. Exiles number 3, the first appearance of Peggy Carter as Captain America. And Something's Killing the Children number 21, the Ashcan Virgin variant. Now this stack of books came as a trade for X23 number 1, the 1 in 25 Dell Audio variant, which I believe was over a $2,000 book that I traded for this stack of books. So we have Black Panther number 3, the 1 in 25 Taran Clark variant cover, first appearance of Tosin Oduye. I am going to bring this to Whatnot at a $1 start. So make sure to follow us over on Whatnot if you want to see that carnage when it comes. I just think this would be a fun one to do starting at $1 on Whatnot. Marvel Age number 104. Just an awesome Jim Lee cover. There's actually 2 copies of this, 9.6 with white pages. And how about that depiction of Psylocke? Just such an awesome Jim Lee cover. Happy to add these to the site. Ultimate Fallout 4, 9.4, first print, first full appearance of Miles Morales as the new Spider-Man. Ghost Spider number 2. This is a variant edition. I believe it's an incentive cover, just an awesome Peach Momoko cover for Spider-Gwen. Black Panther number 2, first appearance of Shuri in a 9.6. And Dazzler number 1 with the printing error. So this is where pages 24 and 25, their ad pages were printed without color. And this is also the first direct distribution comic book by Marvel, which is interesting because it doesn't have the little, direct edition thing on the cover, but it is the first direct edition comic book by Marvel. So there you have it, guys. Awesome set of books. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, and like this video for your chance to win a free CGC Detective Comics 10 center. And head over to brycecomics.com. Sign up for the newsletter over there, and you're entered to win a free slab each and every month. And you'll also receive access to discount codes and first access to new inventory when it comes through the shop. Follow me over on Instagram for trades for grails. And lastly, follow me over on Whatnot. Link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase. We're having a ton of fun over on Whatnot, and I will be having a sale, I believe next week, all slab sale, everything starting at $1. There will be some carnage. It's a lot of fun, and I hope to see you there. Thank you as always for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bryce Comics.